how to predict your future by studying your dreams. So a lot of you don't realize that not being able to understand your dreams or predict your dreams is why a lot of negative things is manifesting into your life, right? So today we're going to talk about how you can predict your future and change your future by understanding, analyzing, and studying your dreams. And stay for the end of the video. I guarantee you're going to learn something that you've never learned in the entirety of your life. You've never heard what I'm about to say anywhere. Make sure you stay here. Make sure you don't leave. I guarantee you, the version of yourself that leaves this video and then the timeline of the version of yourself that stays and absorbs all of this information live two completely different lives, right? So first, what we have to say, everything is energy, frequency, and vibrations. That's the first thing. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibrations, right? So that's the first thing that you need to understand. The core of the universe, the core of everything is energy, frequency, and vibrations. The second thing that you need to understand is creation, right? Creation is finished, right? So creation is finished. That means everything that you could experience, everything that you could experience in physical reality, it's already been created, it's done. You're just the consciousness passing through those experiences. So first thing that you need to understand is everything is energy, frequency, and vibrations. And the second thing that you need to understand is that creation is already finished, and every single thing that can happen to you already exists somewhere out there. You're just the consciousness passing through that experience, right? So now the next thing that you need to understand, this is a bar. The next thing you need to understand is the dreams that you experience are a reflection of the frequency that you're currently vibrating on, right? So that's one thing you have to understand. A perfect example of this is a lot of people, they have dreams, right? Have you ever had a dream, right? You have a dream, and then whatever it is that you are dreaming about, it actually comes true. It can come true a couple days later. It can come true a week later, maybe 2 weeks later. But that which you dreamed about came true. We've all had experiences where we dreamt of something, and then that which we dreamt of came true. But no one actually understands this. No one knows why, right? So the first thing you have to understand is you have to understand, where do you dream? Because right now, you're here, you're watching this video. This is the third dimension. You're in the physical realm, right? But where do you dream? Where do you go when you dream? Well, right now, we're in the third dimension, right? So let's say this is the third dimension, right? So this is the third dimension. When you dream in the fourth dimension, right? So let's say this is the fourth dimension, right? So this is the fourth dimension, right? So currently, this is where we are right now. Right now, we are in the third dimension. This is where we are. We are in the third dimension. This is the physical world, right? But then when you dream, your consciousness is not in the third dimension. Your consciousness is in the fourth dimension. And you have to understand that everything already exists, right? Everything that you see in the third dimension is a reflection of something that's in the fourth dimension, right? Another way to explain it is there's an infinite number of timelines, right? There's an infinite number of timelines. And when you dream and you go into the fourth dimension, you could see the timeline before it materialized into the third dimension. So think of it this way. For a perfect example of this is you're in the third dimension, right? This is you. You're in the third dimension. And then you go to sleep and you dream, right? And now your consciousness is chilling somewhere up here, right? This is your consciousness. You are chilling right here, right? And then when you dream, you see this specific circumstances, right? You see this specific event. You see this specific circumstances in the fourth dimension, but it's still in the fourth dimension. It hasn't materialized in the third dimension yet, right? So your consciousness passes through the fourth dimension, right? You dream, and as your consciousness is in the fourth dimension, you're seeing that future event, you're seeing that future timeline that has not materialized into the third dimension, right? Third dimension yet, right? So now you're seeing this timeline that's right here. But look, it's right here, right? Eventually, on a long enough time frame, let's say you had this dream a week or 2 weeks ago, right? You had a dream, right? And then eventually, boom, this thing comes into the third dimension, right? And whatever it is, whatever circumstance, whatever event, whatever person you're meeting, whatever it is, it could be anything. It was here. And the reason you were able to see it here before it happened here is because everything already exists and you're just seeing something that already exists. You're just watching a movie that's already created. So another thing is it's like the third dimension, you're just watching a movie, right? But when you dream, sometimes you're able to see parts of the movie that hasn't happened yet. Let's say you're watching a movie and you're at part 25. When you dream, so this is part 25, when you dream, it's like you skip a part and then you see part 35. So you see part 35 in the dream and then you go back into the physical plane, which is the third dimension, and then maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks later, that which you saw in your dreams, it's finally reached the third dimension and then it's materialized. You're like, wait a minute, I had a dream about a week or two and this thing I saw in my dreams, it materialized. That's so weird. What a coincidence. Or even deja vu, a lot of experiences that people have, like deja vu, a lot of the times you'll have a dream maybe a long time ago and you forgot that you had that dream, but you saw it, you saw that dream. This is deja vu as well. You saw this thing in the fourth dimension, right? You dreamt and you saw a future timeline. You saw a future, because remember, creation's already finished. So a lot of the times when you go into the fourth dimension, you're seeing something that already exists before it's materialized in the third dimension, right? And then you go into the third dimension and then maybe you're like, I swear it feels like deja vu. I've seen this thing that's happened before. I swear I've seen it, right? Where did you see it? You saw it in the fourth dimension. Maybe you forgot, but it's like, I feel like I've been in the moment before. Now, you have to understand, how come some people have bad dreams, some people have good dreams. Everyone has different dreams, right? What determines the dream you experience? Well, you have to understand as well, right? Let's erase this, right? The dreams that you have are a reflection of the current frequency that you're vibrating on, right? So for example, let's say someone is poor, they have a poor mindset, they have a negative mindset, right? And that's the frequency that they're vibrating on. So you have a person, right? And they're vibrating at a negative frequency, a poverty frequency, and they have a bad mindset. This person, a lot of the times when they dream, right? Like, let's say this is their timeline, right? So this is a specific frequency, right? This is the frequency that they're vibrating on, right? So let's just say this frequency is poverty, negativity, right? So this is poverty and negativity, right? So someone will have a dream. Let's say you have this person, right? And this person, right? So you have this little stick figure right here. This person's name is, let's say his name is John, right? So you have John, and John goes to sleep. And a lot of the times John goes to sleep and he sees negative things. He sees dreams where he's poor. He sees dreams where he's always struggling. Well, you have to understand that the things that you see in your dreams are a reflection of the frequency that you're vibrating on. So you have to understand that the reason you see a lot of things in your dreams and then it materializes is because it's a reflection of your current vibration, right? You're seeing into that future timeline of the frequency you're currently vibrating on. So for example, John might be vibrating at a negative frequency, right? And then he dreams, his consciousness goes into the fourth dimension, right? And what John is seeing something that is going to happen that hasn't yet happened, and it's a reflection of the frequency he's vibrating on, right? And then you can have Mark right here. Let's say Mark, right? So Mark is vibrating. Let's say this is, abundance, positivity, right? So positive. So you have Mark. Mark is vibrating at a frequency of abundance and he's vibrating at a frequency of positivity. So a lot of the times when Mark dreams, most of the time in his dreams, he sees abundance, he sees positive things. The things that you see in your dream are a reflection of the frequency that you're vibrating on, right? And you have to understand that creation is already finished, remember, right? So because creation is already finished, all the events that can happen to you, all the circumstances that can happen to you, all of the people that you're going to meet, it's all already created. And you're currently vibrating at a certain frequency, and it's like you're watching a movie, and the movie that you're watching is already created, but you haven't seen that part yet, right? So for example, John is on a negative frequency. He's vibrating at a negative frequency. So he could see so he goes into the fourth dimension, right? Essentially, when he dreams a lot, and some dreams are random. I'm not saying this for every dream, but a lot of the times when you dream, you're seeing a future event That's a reflection of the current vibrational frequency that you're vibrating on. So you're seeing a future event. You're seeing a circumstance. You're seeing something that could happen that hasn't materialized into the third dimension yet. You're seeing something that has happened that hasn't materialized here. You're seeing something that you're seeing something that can happen that's a reflection of the current frequency you're vibrating on. The reason I said it multiple times is so you can truly understand it, because creation's already finished. All of the things that you're going to experience as a result of the frequency that you're vibrating on have already happened. They're already there. You're just the consciousness passing through that experience. So because John is on a poverty negative frequency, a lot of the times when he goes into the fourth dimension, right, there's a high chance that he's going to see something negative, right? He's going to see something negative. He's going to see something negative a lot of the time, and that negative thing which he sees in his dreams is going to materialize, right? So I'm going to say it again. The things that you see in your dream are a reflection of your current vibrational frequency. So you're seeing into the future timeline of the things that could manifest as a result of that the frequency that you're currently vibrating on, right? So if John saw something very negative in his dreams, right? And then he learns that, okay, so dreams are basically a reflection of my vibrational frequency, right? Each frequency is a different timeline. Each frequency has different circumstances. Each frequency has different people you're going to meet, different circumstances, different events that's going to happen, right? So because each frequency has different circumstances, different events, different everything, if John, right, John can understand, okay, John is, let's say he has a poverty mindset and he has a negative mindset, right? And then he goes to sleep and he sees negative things. But then he learns and he understands, oh, so the things that I see in my dream, a lot of the times it's a reflection of my current vibrational frequency. It's something that's in my current timeline that's a reflection of the frequency I'm vibrating on. And if I don't change my frequency, eventually this thing right here is going to eventually make its way here, and it's going to materialize into the third dimension. But it hasn't materialized in the third dimension yet. John has seen it. It's in the fourth dimension. But essentially, if John changes his vibrational frequency, he changes his timeline. He changes that which will materialize in his physical reality. So let's say John changes his mindset, right? John isn't negative anymore, right? John isn't negative. He starts changing his vibrational frequency. He starts, meditating, reprogramming his subconscious mind, and then he changes his vibrational frequency. So now you don't have John here anymore, right? Now that John has changed his frequency, he's on a new timeline. So now you have John, and John is right here. Let's say this is John, right? And now the timeline that John is experiencing is this, right? So now that John has changed his vibrational frequency, there is going to be different circumstances and different things that materialize into his physical plane. Because when you change your frequency, you change your reality, right? You change your frequency, you change the reality. When you change your reality, you change your timeline, you change that which you experience. Now that John is doing his meditations, he's reprogramming his subconscious mind, because he's changed his vibrational frequency, right? Now John is starting to basically have dreams where he's rich. He's having positive dreams. He's having dreams where he sees himself abundant and where he's living a good, amazing life. Now remember, this poverty negative timeline, it still exists. He's just not vibrating at the frequency for the things that happen in that timeline for them to materialize in the third dimension. Now the things that materialize in the third dimension are going to be more abundant, more positive. So now that his vibrational frequency has changed, now this positive thing is going to materialize. Now he's seeing good things that he wants to materialize. Remember, a lot of the dreams that you have are a reflection of your current vibrational frequency. But here's the thing, right? If John is doing the work to change his vibrational frequency, you have to understand his job is to maintain that vibration. He can't go back to this negative way of thinking. So for example, let's say this is his core vibration. This is John's core vibration. But he's beginning to do the work to change his vibrational frequency so that he can align with abundance and positivity. Well, you have to understand that now that he's doing his meditations, he's changing his vibrational frequency, right? Now he's changed his timeline. So sometimes he's going to have dreams, and he's going to see, now when he dreams, his consciousness passes over here, and now he sees positive things. He sees where he's going to be living a life of abundance, right? But the thing is, that's a reflection of what could happen as a result of the new frequency of positivity and abundance that John is vibrating on. But the thing is, for those positive things, for these positive and abundant things to materialize in John's reality, he has to maintain that vibration, because his core vibration is still poverty and negativity. He has to fully reprogram his subconscious mind and completely shift his vibrational frequency so that this becomes his new core vibration. Once this becomes his new core vibration, then it's guaranteed that all of these things are going to materialize, right? But the thing is, if John, sometimes he's vibrating at the frequency of abundance and positivity, and then sometimes he's vibrating at the frequency of poverty. If sometimes he's vibrating at abundance, positivity, and then sometimes he's vibrating at poverty, negativity, because he's not able to maintain that vibrational frequency of abundance, because this is his core vibration, he's always going to shift back here. So John, we don't want John to get stuck in a loop where sometimes he, is able to maintain his vibrational frequency, and then also sometimes he's reacting to something negative, so he shifts back here. A lot of you're trying to manifest, and sometimes you have dreams where you see your desired reality, right? You see it, I'm like, I see it, it must be working, but it never materializes. That's because you keep shifting in and out. So essentially what's happening is sometimes you're vibrating at this frequency and you're able to see the timeline of that future reality of that new frequency, and you're like, yes, it's amazing. But then a lot of the times you shift back to the old negative frequency, and it's almost as if whatever it is never materializes. Whatever it is that you want never materializes. Your desired reality never materializes. You're just stuck. You're just stuck going back and forth. It's almost as if your desired reality only exists in your dreams. The biggest issue that most of you are having is that you're not able to maintain that vibration. So because you're feeling that vibration inconsistently, sometimes you have dreams where you're in your desired reality and it feels amazing, and then sometimes you go back to this frequency. So because you're not able to maintain this frequency long enough, this abundance, this positivity, it never reaches the third dimension. It never materializes, right? You have to maintain this frequency long enough for it to materialize in the third dimension. And one of the biggest issues that a lot of people have when they're trying to manifest and get whatever it is that they want, manifest their desired reality, one of the biggest issues that they have is they're not able to maintain the frequency, maintain the vibration. So a lot of the times their desired reality only exists in their dreams, because sometimes they're on the vibration, so they're able to see this new timeline, but they never are able to maintain the vibration long enough for it to actually materialize into the third dimension. And why is this hard? The reason it's a bit difficult is because your third dimension is still full of this poverty and negativity. So it's difficult not to react to the positive and the negative things, because your physical reality is still this. Remember, circumstances don't matter, only state of being matters. So even though your physical reality, the third dimension, might be full of negativity, you have to maintain this vibrational frequency of abundance and positivity long enough so that eventually everything here can materialize into your third dimension, and then your physical reality completely shifts. One of the biggest issue that a lot of people have when they're trying to manifest their desired reality and elevate their frequency is they get stuck. They literally get stuck of only seeing their desired reality in the fourth dimension, because sometimes they're on that frequency, sometimes they're not on that frequency. So sometimes, but they're not able to maintain it long enough for it to physically manifest in the third dimension. So a lot of the times, it's almost as if your desired reality only exists in your dreams, but it never fully materializes. And the reason why is because you're not able to maintain that frequency, right? So the next step, one of the first steps is John has to understand that a lot of the things that he sees in his dreams, everything in his physical reality is a reflection of his vibrational frequency. If he doesn't want negativity to keep manifesting, he has to change his vibrational frequency. But then once he changes his vibrational frequency to abundance and positivity, essentially what's going to happen is this is good. But one of the hardest parts is he has to maintain that new vibrational frequency long enough for it to materialize in the third dimension. A lot of loop that a lot of you get stuck in, a lot of people get stuck in, is they only see their desired reality in the fourth dimension when they're dreaming, because essentially what happens is they're not able to maintain it. So let's say for some reason, for whatever reason, you're able to maintain that vibrational frequency today. You might have a dream where you see into this timeline, you're able to see it and you get all excited, but it never materializes, because the next day you might react to the negative things in your third dimension, and then you shift back to this frequency, right? So it's like you're stuck in this cycle of inconsistency where your desired reality only only exist in your dreams in the fourth dimension, but it never actually fully materializes into the third dimension. And the reason that it never actually fully materializes is because you're feeling the vibration inconsistently. It's almost as if it's like it's like you're seeing glimpses of a movie that you want to watch, but the movie never fully shifts, right? It's like you're in a movie theater and you're watching a movie that you don't want to watch, and then glimpses of a movie that you do want to watch switch on, but then it always shifts back to the old movie. Why? Because you're not able to maintain that vibrational frequency of abundance and positivity long enough for it to materialize into the physical plane, for it to materialize into the third dimension, right? Feeling the vibration, yes, that's good, but can you feel it, the vibration, consistently in the midst of not reacting to all the negative things that are in the third dimension? Can you feel the vibration long enough so everything that it is that you want of abundance and positivity to fully materialize? Because if you're not able to do that, your dreams are only going to exist here in the fourth dimension, and you're going to have dreams where, oh, that which I wanted manifested, but you never see it manifest in the third dimension. And that's the game.